I have never been a fan of cap and trade principally. I'll have more to say about that, but principally, because we talk about it as a marketplace that accomplishes great things. Now, it is a marketplace because in terms of how we describe it, but it's a marketplace that is artificially developed by the government with top-down rules as to how it works. And anybody who understands economics and pure marketplaces, all of that is a multi-layered oxymoron. Now, those who end up paying for the credits, businesses, the emitters of greenhouse gases, are largely not opposed to this. And some people within this room understand this, but outside the room might wonder, well, why? The reason is because, as my friend from West Sacramento stated, or at least implied, is the alternative. The alternative to cap and trade for greenhouse gas emitters is further regulation by the California Air Resources Board, whose chair this year famously testified to an assembly committee that they concern themselves absolutely not at all, nor do they do any analysis of the cost of their regulations. She said that. A lot of people had a little bit of a problem with that, but the fact of the matter is, it's true because they are not charged by AB 32 to do that. So to present this as an affordability strategy is another oxymoron. It is not an affordability strategy. It is a greenhouse gas reduction strategy, yes, but it contributes to higher costs, higher energy costs, higher gasoline costs. I don't know how we call this affordability. Now, let's talk about the goals of cap and trade, the goals of the California Air Resources Board. AB 32 charged the Air Resources Board with reducing greenhouse gas emissions. They've done a great job of that. And cap and trade, by the way, I reject the term cap and invest. It's already an artificial marketplace. Let's not carry that illusion that much further, but I digress. Now, the charge is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and that has happened. The charge is not to reduce greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere, although that's what a lot of people think, because we can't. It's impossible. California is responsible for less than 1% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the world, and our significant reduction of emissions has had not only no impact, but we have higher greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere than we did prior to the adoption of AB 32, somewhat due to wildfires, of course, and the Air Resources Board, as near as I can tell, hasn't developed any policies at all with regard to wildfire mitigation. But I digress again. Now, that isn't to suggest that we shouldn't do anything. Again, my friend from Santa Cruz talked about being a leader for the world, and that's the way that this has been described to me when I asked the question, you know, what's it really all about? And that is, well, we're showing the way. And I guess we are, except that we're not looking in our rearview mirror because nobody's following us. Now, again, that's not to say that we shouldn't do anything. We should. I agree with the goal of reducing air pollution, which, by the way, is different than reducing greenhouse gases. Typical air pollution has to do with toxic things in the air. Carbon dioxide is not toxic, but nonetheless, by reducing greenhouse gases, we also reduce related air pollution, and that's a good thing. But we ought to at least be honest as to what the cost is. Be honest to our citizens who are paying higher gas prices, higher utility prices, as a result of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So let's work on that, yes, but let's assess what the true economic cost is. Now, a little bit about high-speed rail. We've talked a lot about that this evening. The high-speed rail was sold with a lie. If you read the title and summary statement of the proposition, forget the number, that authorized high-speed rail, was written by then Attorney General Jerry Brown. You read that title and summary statement, and it says we get the whole thing for $10 billion. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of people just read title and summary statements, which is why I have continually proposed that the responsibility for writing title and summary statements be transferred from the Attorney General to the legislative analyst who writes all the detailed analyses anyway, and we would get much more unbiased title and summary statements. And both Republicans and Democrats have been responsible for that, but the last time we had a Republican Attorney General was before a lot of people in this state were even born. But I digress again. Every time I have gotten that bill out of a committee, it ends up on the suspense file in the Appropriations Committee, and of course there it dies with no fiscal impact, I might add. But back to high-speed rail. It was sold with a lie. It has been horribly mismanaged. The cost overruns are absolutely stunning, and applying this over time $20 billion is going to cover a fraction of the unrealized costs that we have yet to spend to complete the project. And I would also suggest that once we begin the political battles over where that thing stops, it probably will never operate as a true high-speed rail. Those are my fundamental issues with high-speed rail, and I'll finish that by saying I would love to see it happen. I would love to be able to take a train as opposed to an airplane and all of the difficulty in air travel these days, but I just don't know that it's going to see the reality of actual operation. And in the meantime, we do have those things called airplanes, which is another alternative to driving to Southern California, by the way. So I'll echo the process again as I did before. This has been developed behind closed doors in a short period of time so that, as I quoted that Cal Matters article, lobbyists have little time to react to it, and we lawmakers have little time to really contemplate it. I urge a no vote.